Welcome to the Long Shot Podcast. You know it. You love it. I'm Amber Kenny, one of your co-hosts, along with the other co-host, Sean Conroy.
Hey, hi, how are you? There's a guy who I watch videos of his sometimes on YouTube. He's like an exercise guy because I feel like watching videos of exercise counts as exercise in a way. And he always starts his videos. He goes, hey, like that's his catchphrase. It just is like, it's just so funny to see people work so hard to brand themselves and do a terrible job at it. You know,
there was a woman that I used to work out with a lot. Whatever, it's a whole thing.
A video, her videos, you mean?
Her YouTube videos. But she started every video with, "Hey, buddy rockers."
Yeah, right. This is my brand. Yeah.
And then I don't even know all the details because for a while there I was like trying to piece it together looking at Instagram posts, but it was run by her and her husband, and all of the like stills that were the thumbnails for the video were like very almost sexual,
erotic.
Like
yeah. Well, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Anyway, somehow like her and her husband went through a messy divorce, and he kept ownership of the channel, even though it was her on it. And like, so he just brought in another woman that he was sleeping with. Like, it was like so drama.
Oh man, we should come up with like a good, like some kind of great, like good desk. If we said good desk every episode, that would be our version of hey. Yeah.
I was just thinking about this the other day when I used to do stand-up. At least for a while, I used to start every set with, "Hey, dummies." I felt like set the tone, like in a very cheerful way, but also condescending.
Right. I had a similar thing, not exactly the same, but I would start every set. I would start by going, "You stupid motherfuckers." And didn't work out that well.
No,
people didn't find it appealing.
On you?
Yeah, they did not go for that. But what are you going to do? So world at war. Russia has invaded the Ukraine. Not the Ukraine. Sorry, Ukraine. People say the Ukraine, but you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say Ukraine. Russia has invaded. And I don't know. I don't know enough to say for certain. But I just wonder if this is a thing that is leading down a path that, I mean, is this kind of what happened in Poland in 1939? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there are certain similarities from what I can see of Putin saying, you know, "I'm doing this to protect ethnic Russians in this part of the country. I'm taking over territory that already," and that was kind of exactly what Hitler was doing in the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia. And so there are definitely parallels. And there's also the whole thing of like, I don't know. It gets very frustrating because we live in a world where people just say things that aren't true as if they are true. And then people believe them because they have control of the outlets for information.
And it's one of those things like, isn't there a psychology? Like if you hear something over and over enough times,
even if somebody says this is not true. Yeah. Your brain, the first thing that you hear imprints itself. So the more I say, you know, what that guy said actually is not true, the part that you remember tends to be what that guy said instead of it's not true. So there's this huge, like, I guess there's a thing where one of the things Putin has said is that he's going into Ukraine to denazify the country. In other words, the people in charge there are all Nazis, which doesn't make any sense at all, except if you want to sort of dehumanize them and make them terrible people.
Well, I know probably
if you think, assuming you think Nazis are terrible people, you might not think.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
there's certainly a lot of them that are legitimate political discourse here in the United States.
I feel like I know even less than you do about this conflict.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I agree with you 100% on that.
But I do know from, my days listening to NPR, which aren't current because
you're not in the car.
I'm not in the car. So I feel like I'm not abreast on current events in a way that I used to be.
Right.
Because I'm not, like you said, like I could look on the internet, but like who knows what I'm looking at?
What's the source? Where's the information coming from? Is it somebody's propaganda? Is it the truth? Who knows?
But also I know for a fact from those previous days that like Putin is the king of sort of misinformation, and his whole deal is just like confusion and spreading lies, but then lies upon lies upon lies. And so that it's very hard. Anyway,
it's a very specific strategy, the fire hose of bullshit, like just spew as much nonsense as possible. So you're not necessarily trying to get people to believe everything you're saying.
But they're like fatigued with.
But they just go, I don't care anymore. Like, I don't know what's true.
Exactly.
And I can't think about it anymore.
And he is the star of this show. So it's like that makes you have to take everything with a grain of salt that much more. You see what I'm saying? Like,
you need more salt is what you're saying.
It's like, what are we talking about?
Right. It's also wild to see, because I grew up in the 1940s and 50s. You
look great.
Thank you. No, I grew up during, when did the Cold War end? 1989, 90, 91 in there. So the whole time I was growing up, the Cold War was going on, and Russia, the Soviet Union were the bad guys. Like, they were the enemy. Reagan, tear down this wall, all that stuff.
Every movie, the bad guys are Russian.
Right. Red Dawn was the Soviets landing, parachuting into wherever the fuck they were. Wolverines, not Michigan. I don't remember where it was. But now, and Reagan was the ultimate Republican, right? The Reagan Revolution, and he now
still has people who are diehard for him,
right? And now to see all these people on that side of the aisle who are 100% in support of Putin is kind of crazy. Like, it's bizarre. It's a bizarre. It's very difficult to understand and to see people out there going, this is all, none of this would have happened except for the fact that Biden is so weak, and this, it's very upsetting on some level that, well, this is a different terrible thing that's going on that I'm going to bring up now. But I think
this is going to be a feel-good episode.
I think it's related. I'm sure you've heard about this thing in Texas where the governor has declared that trans kids their parents need to be investigated by Child Protective Services. And there's a chance
they could be taken away from them.
Right. It's child abuse to allow your child to live that way. And the thing that I was thinking about that the other day is that has nothing to do with protecting anyone or helping anyone in any way. It's 100% capitalizing on hate and ignorance for political gain.
Yeah. Yes.
So he is going, there's enough people out there who don't understand that stuff and therefore will hate it, that if I push them in the direction further of hating it, they will vote for me. And that is the ultimate driving force in much of the political discussion. I mean, it's always been present, but it's become so surface at this point in everything that goes on. So, for example, rather than anybody going, hey, let's think about these Ukrainians for a moment who are being slaughtered
human beings,
invasion, it's much more important to focus on this would never have happened under Donald Trump, which of course is absurd. This would never have happened under Donald Trump. This is all the fault of a weak president who is also illegitimate because the election was rigged and all that stuff. You know, it's like everything is about that stuff as opposed to about the actual issue.
Well, and I'm not going to name names.
Phil, Bob, Dan, Stephen, Ronnie, Edgar.
Like to protect the innocent and the non-innocent.
You're like Dragnet?
Yes. But there are people close to people who are close to me that spend a lot of time like wringing their hands about trans people and trans children and trans people in sports. And it's like, it's so clearly the media they're consuming that is like riling them up, because it's like, this is not like, there are trans people. I know trans people, you know trans people, but it's not like an army of them descending and changing the fabric of society or our day-to-day life. Like, it's an issue that is worthy of fighting for, but for them, not in a defensive way against them. And it's wild. I'm basically just echoing what you're saying. Like, why are you spending so much time worrying about something that has nothing to do with you? Like, it boggles my mind.
Right. And that's because it helps somebody else to make people upset about it. I also had this thought, which is upsetting, because my whole thing has been for the last couple of years. I don't know if you know anything about my whole thing. My whole thing is always
9 projects going and lunches with directors. Oh, are we getting
I literally had lunch today. Well, anyway, but you know, in my head, so much of this is driven by financial gain. In other words, I am saying this because it makes me money to say these things, and I can sell t-shirts from it, and I can get political donations from it. And I think there is a huge part of it that is that. But I had this thought specifically in relation to the great Tucker Carlson today or yesterday, whenever I had the thought. I don't know when my thoughts come. I don't keep a journal,
and
a
also,
thought journal.
No one's gonna check. So it
might have been yesterday. It might have been today.
Say yesterday. Let's go with yesterday.
Okay. So yesterday I was thinking, and I was like, you know, there is because I've always been like, oh, he's just trying to make money. He's making money. But no, I think it's deeper than that. I think he really is a white nationalist. He is a racist. He is pushing these things because he has a fascist, evil, immoral agenda.
Why not both?
Right. It profits him. It works out well. But it's not just that. It's not.
And hate.
But it's not just that. Like, I'm convinced, I'm convinced. I convinced myself when I had this thought.
Was it yesterday?
Tomorrow? It was tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I was thinking about this tomorrow. That he is a white nationalist. He is exactly the views he is espousing. They're not just things he says to profit himself.
What made you comes?
I don't know. I guess I was kind of thinking like, yeah, it's nice to make money, but he's rich. He was born rich. He's making so much money already. And he's really drilling down on this stuff in a way that perpetuates itself, that has ill effects regularly in politics, in culture. Like there's
society,
there's just an extensive repercussion from all the stuff he's saying. And so he's not stupid. He's aware of that. And that is part of the package for him. And that is part of the benefit for him. You know, he is truly a deeply evil person. And it's also wild. Maybe it's not wild. Maybe I'm just stupid and I'm just becoming aware of it. But to think of like, it's not just shitty politicians, it's shitty talk show hosts driving so much of the political conversation in this country, because those are the people that drive the political conversation. Right. They are the culture warriors that the Democrats end up having to react to.
Well, by this theory that you have, Putin should be going after Tucker Carlson because he's a Nazi.
He's a Nazi, right? Right. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if Putin's number is in the white pages.
Mr. Putin.
No. Who is this? Why you call me at home? How you get this number?
I'm about to say the dumbest thing that has ever happened.
We've just been saying the dumbest things for like half an hour already.
But it feels like Putin has been in power for 1,000 years.
20-something years, yeah.
Is that normal? Like, what are we
doing? No, he's a dictator. Like he was what was he? He was the prime minister for a long time. Then he was the president. Now he's the prime minister again. He had the constitution changed so he can be prime minister for life. But it is an interesting thing. I mean, I think ultimately, and again, you can't see it, and it looks like my mouth is moving, but the words are coming out of my asshole right now because that's where I'm talking from. Mm-hmm. But part of this stuff is not at all about, Ukraine is on the border of Russia, and if NATO moves into Ukraine, Russia will be unsafe, and we need to get Ukraine back to keep Russia safe and have that's what he's saying all this stuff is about. But really, I think what a lot of it is really about is democracy. Like he is afraid of democracy. And there is a thing where somebody like Putin or a lot of these authoritarian dictators, they do have elections. They're all completely rigged, but they have to have elections so they can show the public that there was a vote and they were voted into office, as opposed to like just going, I am dictator for life. Thank you very much. I'm done. They need to pretend to have
the theater of
right. And so his fear is that if ever democracy did start to make its way in, and people did start to have to make up their own minds, as opposed to him winning, 99% of the vote every time he runs for something, it would have ill effects for him. Right. It would be bad.
Retire, buddy. You've done it.
He's the richest man in the world.
Is he?
I think so. I could be totally wrong. There's a guy that I see at the corner store once in a while who has a huge roll of cash in his pocket. It might be
one of the two.
It might be him. Yeah.
But
I think he really during that whole period of the 90s when the Soviet Union just fell apart and all the crooks made so much, like they just robbed the country blind. And I think he was one of the people who really profited during that time.
Sick. Cool. Yeah. Cool dude. This is only related in the sense that it's a dictator and it's something I'm dumb about, but that's the through line. But I recently watched this documentary called The Donut King. Have you seen this?
No.
It's on Hulu. I recommend it. It's not like life-changing. It's not whatever. I'll explain, but it's about why there are so many independent donut shops in Southern California. Like it's basically,
which is crazy and very noticeable, by the way.
And it's basically one guy. They're like, it could all sort of be traced back, and it could all be traced back to Cambodia. It was one guy escaping Pol Pot. Am I saying that right? I just got really embarrassed that I'm saying everything wrong.
A lot of people say Pol Pot, but some people say Paul Pot.
But it's a lighter documentary for the most part. It's truly about donut shops and families, and but to get there, at one point in the I'm completely ruining the movie at this point, but
please,
they
spoiler away.
They divert and explain what happened in Cambodia, and I truly felt like an asshole. Like, I knew shit went down, but I didn't know specifics, and they made my jaw drop in a way that
you could easily fit a donut in there, maybe.
Yes, but like basically he wasn't a good dude.
No, he wasn't.
And that is recent history, I guess, is the other thing. I think sometimes I'll use I statements. I was about to make a generalization, but that it's easy to think of like historical authoritarian leaders like as like in the before times in history books, and it's like, no, dude, it's happening. And anyway.
Well, time is a weird thing. I mean, this is a totally different subject. Thank fucking God, because Jesus Christ, enough is enough with the Pol Pot and the Putin and Cambodia. And
but check out Donut King. It's interesting. It's a very interesting
Check out Donut King. But I was thinking about this the other day. So when I was a kid, when I was like maybe 9 or 10 years old, so late 70s, right? I got for Christmas one year like a triple album, by which I mean 3 records.
I got it.
Yeah.
I know I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb.
But literally like vinyl 33 1/3 LPs with. So
we're talking 99.
100. No. Each of them was 33 1/3. So altogether it was 100. Also, that just makes me think, and I'm sure I could figure this out if I really thought about it, but like part of me is like 33 1/3 what? I guess it's rotations per minute, right? It's how fast it spins. Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But it does make me go, what the fuck is it? It's 33 1/3, and then there's 45s, and then, but anyway, it was like the greatest hits of the 50s. So it was all these songs by like Bill Haley and the Comets and the Trashmen and Elvis and, just all these songs. And I was a kid, and I was like, the Platters, the Coasters, the Skylights, the Shylights, the Bylights, the Twilights,
Teacup.
And I was like, wow, this is, and I loved it, but it was also like, this is reaching into the distant past.
Oh, right.
Crazy.
Right.
And like that fucking Super Bowl we just watched, that's how long ago that music was from. It was the same thing. It was like the 1950s to the 1970s was the same as whenever that Snoop Dogg and Dre thing came out. It was like 2002 maybe to now. Same amount of time. And it doesn't seem like that long ago. It doesn't seem like we're reaching into the distant past to hear, don't forget about whoever. I forget who it was about, but I forgot about him.
Well, I guess we're all on this. I think time has been very noticeably strange in COVID.
Yes.
It feels like slower and faster, and the elasticity and the non-linearness has been heightened. But I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff too. I remember
feels like a Christopher Nolan movie.
Ugh, that's the worst thing it can feel like. But I remember thinking about, okay, I'll put it this way, but like the 60s, you know?
I do know, yes.
Feels like really far away from World War II. Like
right.
The way you think about them.
Right.
But
well, they came back from World War II. Then there was all the greasers. Then there was the hippies.
Right.
So there was a lot of phases to go through.
But it's like the same time frame as now to when I was graduating high school.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And we've had COVID that whole time, right?
I know, the entire time.
So nuts.
The other thing I wanted to say about World War III possibly breaking out is in a very personal, dumb way, is it's affected me directly when it comes to work. Like message came from hi, no social posts indefinitely. It feels insensitive. And that's, I think, the right call. But we were in a meeting and we were having that conversation of like very somber, the situation with Russia and Ukraine. And, you know,
and then somebody farted.
Well, then 10 seconds later, somebody was like, hey, could you guys show everybody Shrek in the Sky? Do you know what Shrek in the Sky is?
I have no idea. I have an idea, but I don't know.
It's maybe I'll show you some, like maybe that'll be part of my parting shot, but it's trending on Twitter right now. It's its own filter, and it's a giant Shrek, but with a female body in a latex black suit dancing to a Lady Gaga song. But for whatever reason, it is blowing up. It is trending. So it was just whiplash of tone in the meeting to be like, war is happening, but check out this giant Shrek. Like,
is it Poker Face?
No, it's it's Disco
The Edge.
Stick.
The Edge.
Disco Stick, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's, I don't know. It's
Sha la 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 lows. Right? Wasn't that Lady Gaga?
So good. But yeah, and like I've been keeping up my morning pages.
Great.
And even this morning, I was like writing about whatever bullshit for like a page and a half. And then I was like, oh, I think World War III might be starting. And then I was like, if anyone ever finds this journal, it's going to be so embarrassing how like how I first was talking about like my pillows or whatever.
First of all, class, I want to say happy 2071. It's finally the new year. Second of all, today we'll be going back to another primary source called Amber Kenny's Morning Pages, in which she speculates about, offhandedly, by the way, about the start of World War III. Turns out she was right, and as we all know, the war ended last week, but...
She mostly talks about the size of Smudgy's poops.
Right. That's one of the problems with keeping a journal of any kind or morning pages or anything is if you are like, and it sounds like you're doing a good job, because if you are at all self-aware, you're not at all honest about what you want to say in them. You know, if you go like, what if somebody finds this? What if it, blah, 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 you know?
No, it's embarrassing. So I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. That's good.
It's what comes out first.
That's good.
And sometimes what comes out first isn't, it's like, oh, that's illuminating.
Boy, oh boy, I really Can't get past Smudgy's poops.
They've just been so big lately.
Wow.
Good times.
All right. Well, we always start the show with a thing we like to call checking in.
Oh no, that wasn't it. Oh, no. What do we talk about now?
So let's start today with Amber.
I'm struggling because I feel like I talked about a lot.
You did.
And we just podcasted
2 days ago.
A few days ago.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, I could nope. Already talked about that. Oh, nothing's happened since then. Okay. I guess I can talk about.
You don't have to force anything. I mean, it's okay not to,
I mean, I think the big thing I was going to talk about was like the dumb that I haven't been able to frame it in the way that I want it to, the way that it's like funnier in my head. But the fact that war breaking out and this horrible atrocity has trickled down to like an annoying task for me at work. Like there's something so funny and silly and dumb about that. Like,
right.
Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird thing to hold two things like that in your head at the same time, where it's like the world is falling apart, but also I need new shoelaces because my lace just broke or whatever it is, Well,
I what I more mean is it's funny to me that I'm like World War III. Ugh, like my biggest pet peeve. Like it to me.
You've always been very anti-World War. It's been one of your
famously
since a long time ago. Yeah.
I am. Like I know we're kidding, but I'm pretty anti.
No, I mean the whole. I remember when you were like, "Oh boy, I hope the Archduke doesn't go to Vienna or whatever it was."
Yeah, I look great for my age. But at least now, who knows how things shift? But the idea that something so catastrophic and so heartbreaking and so horrible can like that exact event was like me being like, ugh, I have to pause these posts. Like,
right.
Like it.
How does it affect me?
It translated so far down the line to being like an annoying thing for me. I don't know. There's something funny in that, but also fucked up. You see what I'm saying? I
do. I absolutely do. And it's funny also to you because you see your own absurdity.
Well, yeah, I see that I'm wrong.
Right. That how could you be like, oh boy. Yeah, I get it.
I also I'm starting to enjoy my job more because I'm inserting my dumb sense of humor. I think that's why. We were in a big meeting. It was like a 40-person meeting and it was different teams updating.
Of course,
the head honcho.
Teamwork makes the dream works.
Yes. And somehow like each team at some point brought up the fact that the next day, the second the Bad Guys trailer was going live. So I was
even though somebody had already brought it up.
Yeah, like they had it from their own point of view, but it had been brought up many times. And so I was completely kidding. And during the meeting, I chatted my boss and I was like, hey, should I mention that the Bad Guys trailer is going out tomorrow? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And so
you were being sarcastic to him. And he took it as straight.
Or he thought that it was funny too. It's hard to tell tone. Right. But so I had like a slide with like numbers but I was like, before we dive into that, I do want to mention the Bad Guys trailer is posting on social media. Like I made it so it was related to me. But
what is The Bad Guys?
It is a movie starring Marc Maroon.
Wow.
Which I've been working on it for years, and it was so weird because my boss was the one pitching it. And he was pitching it to like toy companies and stuff. And he would have me, at the time, it was when I had a different job, and he'd have me listen in. And he's like, "Do you have any notes?" And I'd be like, "Great. His name is Marc Maroon. Marc Maroon." I had to like spell out phonetically. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, I've done podcast.
You might remember me as one of his cats.
Right. Mm-hmm. I've had to just stop because I sound like such a pathological liar. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I podcasted with him. I played one of his cats. Somebody brought up Ted Lasso. I was like, oh yeah, one of my best friends won an Emmy for writing that. Mm-hmm. Like, I sound like such a piece of shit, but I know a lot of talented, interesting people.
Right. No, definitely. You're not bragging. You're just stating the truth. But just happens that it's impressive.
The Bad Guys is a DreamWorks movie that is opening in April. I believe it's still
animated or live action.
It's animated. I work for DreamWorks Animation, and Mark. Oh, because of that, it's become a joke with Jeff and I for years. Because this happened probably 2 years ago. That incident with Marc Maroon, where now I think of his name as Marc Maroon because it's funny to me. So Jeff's like, "Oh, is Marc Maroon in that?" But yeah, so it's Marc Maroon plays a snake. It's the Bad Guys because it's all of the creatures that are known as the villains in
everything
stories historically, like the wolf, the snake, and it's honestly really
the bank robber.
Well, they murderer. Do. That is how it opens. But yeah.
So that's trailers coming out tomorrow. Check it out. Check it out, folks.
It's both the first and second trailer out. This was a past tense story.
Maroon is also funny because it's such a funny insult. You know, like when somebody goes, "What a maroon!" It's very cartoonish.
Well, and it makes me. I think that specific thing makes me laugh so hard because knowing Marc Maroon not well, I am sure he doesn't know who I am. But like, I don't think there is anyone who would be more upset by a mispronunciation. Like, it feels like that's something that would really get under his skin, and something about that makes me laugh.
Hopefully he hears this and comes after us. He finds out about it.
I can't believe that I finally ever
somebody rats us out on social media, and he's
right. And he's like, "Who?" I don't know who those guys are.
No, I mean, he sat right at this table that I'm sitting at right now.
He was in a documentary at that table.
Yeah. All right. So I'll chime in on my checking in and say that yesterday, and this really, there's nothing to this really, but yesterday I did stand up for the second time since the beginning of the pandemic.
Are we going to be counting?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. The third time.
This is going to be the 750.
By the way, did you see this today in the social media ecosphere? The tickets are still available for Louis C.K.'s performance in Kyiv, which apparently is a real thing. That he was going to do a show there. I think I have to imagine that that's not going to go on. Right. Although it would be epic, man.
Epic.
But he had a performance scheduled in Kyiv. And as of today, which is 2 days before the show or a day before the show or something, it had not been canceled yet, despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Kyiv being right in the path of that. Kyiv, I say, or some people say Kiev, or that's one of the things about all this too, is that everybody mispronounces or differently pronounces everything.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, and isn't there a big thing that reporters are like, there's restaurants there? It's like, yes. Like, They think it's going to be like villages
like a
with
shack.
like donkeys.
Yeah. Just 2 shacks and an outhouse. Right. I mean, Kyiv is like 2.8 million people or something like that. It's huge.
Right.
But that was not the size of the show I did yesterday. It was just an open mic.
It wasn't 2.8 million people.
Not 2.8 million people. I think there were. First of all, it was freezing yesterday in LA.
It's
and I know,
so cold today too.
I know, like everybody goes, 60 degrees isn't freezing. But when we were doing this show yesterday, it was like 47 degrees. Still isn't freezing, but it's pretty goddamn cold, especially if you're in a goddamn sweatshirt and you're outside with no.
Right.
Like we did the show outside. So we were just out in 47 degree weather.
Where was it? Did you already say that?
It was over in Studio City somewhere at some place, some store or something that has like a patio outside. So, but anyway, it was just like, it was totally weird and sad and pathetic, but fun. And,
that's stand up, baby.
Right.
Was there an audience?
No, there was nobody there. It was like 7 people, like all comics.
Right.
Which I think was partially attributable to how cold it was. Like, I think there might have been more people there if it had not been freezing cold. But it was just funny because I was like, I'm going to do this no matter what. And then I showed up and I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly why I had reservations about doing this.
Right.
But it was fine. It was fine. I absolutely destroyed and got a standing ovation. So that was nice.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And
did you open with "you pieces of shit"? What was your opener?
You stupid motherfuckers. You pathetic, empty husks of humanity. Yeah, I mean, it was like, it was one of those things where I was like, I was glad to be doing it. At the same time, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What is the point of any of this? What is the reason for this?
At the risk of getting too existential, I feel like you could say that about doing anything.
This is a good point. This is a very good point, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Let me come at that from 2 different directions, because I really did want to talk about this today.
Oh no.
Because I was thinking exactly about that thing today.
You're like, Tucker Carlson's a Nazi.
Yeah, right.
Existentialism is ...
Well, here's what it is so we just are living through the end of this, or not the end, but the dissolution, the we're going to ignore this from now on of this pandemic. I mean, I think only 2,000 people died yesterday, so it's basically over. And so we've lived through this. I've been isolated for 2 years, basically. I was talking to somebody yesterday who has been in a very different life situation, who was like, look, I get it that you've been really careful this whole time, but I haven't had the ability to be that careful. And I've just lived and I've been okay. And the effect that it's had on the people that I know has been incredible. And it's time to get beyond that. So I kind of get it from that point of view as well, but it's still hard to process all the information and the data and stuff. But anyway, so this terrible thing happened all over the world, and we're living through the beginning of the middle of the end of the middle of the end of the middle of the beginning of that.
During.
And so there's definitely a part of me that is like, we are going to die. So who gives a shit about anything? Like, why not? And the way that manifests itself for me is like, I'm going to eat whatever the fuck I want. Like, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I feel like having ice cream. I'm going to drive over to the ice cream place and get an ice cream tonight.
Yeah.
You know? And that's not necessarily healthy, but it's also like, who gives a shit, you know?
Right.
But the flip side of that, which I think is not a result of any of that, but is a different part of all of the who gives a shit, whatever thing. I mean, you were making fun of me before for having lunches with directors and so forth, but I really
was sticking it to you.
I don't like when you zing me. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it's not the tone of the show at all.
No, it's very unpleasant.
By saying you're successful, what a meaning.
Right. But I did have lunch today with somebody on a project that I have been working on for a long time, and I have several of these things now that I have been working on for 8 a long time. No. See, there you go again. You're just the fucking needle. You're pulling out the needle. But yeah, I have 8 or 9. And
so it was accurate what I said.
Right. I mean, the needle was the needle was well placed. The needle was right in the eye of the needle. But the idea at this point, because I started out all of this comedy stuff, whatever you want to call it, creativity, career, whatever bullshit, doing improvisation, which is literally disposable. Like that's right. The whole point is you see it once and it's gone. And that used kind to
the magic. Yeah.
And that used to upset me a bit because I was like, we're doing these great shows and nobody's ever going to see them. And who gives a shit? And that was when things were not going well for me. Now they're going very well because I have like 8 or 9. I don't know if I mentioned I have 8 or 9. Yeah.
Do it to yourself.
Oh, right. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, and literally we were talking about this at lunch today because the other person I was talking to has some of, not 8 or 9, but like 3 or 4 projects of their own.
Oh, so you have more.
Yeah. I'm just saying. And they were saying like, they were working with somebody else who was like, no, it's good. Let's go. Let's move. Let's go. We got to get it out there. We got to get it out there. And I was kind of saying,
why?
Well, and also you want to make sure the thing is right before you get it in front of people. And sometimes that takes a while. It's like, you have to really develop the idea and explore it and make it, work properly and function. And there's great things right away, but it's not ready to go. And if it's not ready to go, when you go, it's definitely not going to go. And for the first time ever in doing all this stuff, I'm at a point where I'm like, I believe in these things enough to really take my time.
Oh, wow.
And sit back and go, these are the things I need to do to get this thing to the place where I want it to be when I'm ready to take it to people. And it's okay that it's going to take more time to do that because the world is ending. Oh, no, wait, no. That's the other thing. That's the ice cream thing. Right. But that's why I say it's like the two opposite.
Like things. Both are happening to you. Yeah. We contain multitudes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is my version of the multitudes. It's not as cool, but I like wake up every morning.
Mine was so cool. It was crazy.
I wake up every morning. I take Smudgy for a walk. I journal, I meditate, I work out.
Fucking nerd. That's not cool.
I eat breakfast. Mm-hmm. But so that's like
when you eat breakfast, do you sit there and pat yourself on the back because you're like, this is the most important meal of the day?
No, because that's propaganda by the Kellogg's Corporation. Okay. It's not true.
Right.
It's good marketing, but fucking stuck. It's scary. But there's no most important meal of the day. Anyway, wow.
Big lunch would disagree.
Lunch is the worst. Mm-hmm. No, lunch is good. I like lunch. Anyway, I think that would all fit into the category of like someone who deeply cares about life and is like trying very hard. But then this is ice cream related. Jeff brought home Halo Top ice cream. And it's like, you might as well get the fucking real stuff. Like, what
I don't
are we
know
doing?
what Halo Top ice cream is.
It's like low calorie.
Ah, I see.
It's like, let's just eat ice cream, man. Like, why do we have to? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it all the way.
We might as well enjoy it if we're gonna
roll the fucking dice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy too, because I have a bunch of people at work above me who truly believe in me in a way that is unbelievable. And they're like, whatever.
I don't believe you.
Whatever you want to do, like, I'm here to support you and get you there. And I am turning 40 this year, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You know what I would love to have an idea of where I want to go and work towards that. But what I have been doing and what I'm doing currently is just like accidentally falling into a role and then working my ass off and doing a good job. But it's not like this is what I wanted, or I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I totally relate to that. I don't think I'm not the right person to talk about this, but I don't think that's necessarily bad. But I was talking about this yesterday with somebody, not in a meeting, just on a phone call. This was like not
like a nice lunch.
No, it was just like we were chatting over the phone. But I was talking about this person I know who is in college and who just has known since the beginning of high school exactly what they wanted to do. And they are doing incredible stuff because they've been so focused since high school on this is the thing. So their job while they're in college now, and it's just a college job. My job in college was I worked in the dining hall. You know, that wasn't what I really wanted to do. It was a way to make money. But he's doing something really cool. And I'm like, and part of me was like, I'm always jealous of these people who are so focused from day one on this is what I want to do. So I know exactly what I need to do to get it. And there are lots of people like that, you know, and I just was never like that. I was always kind of all over the place. And I think part of what's going on right now for me in terms of really being focused on some of these, I have multiple, projects I'm working on. 8,
I've heard. Is that wrong?
No, yeah, it might be wrong. It might be 9. But it is like going, okay, this is the thing that is sort of the culmination of all the other things I've done along the way. And it's been a while to get here. So it's okay if it takes a little bit longer to get to where I want it to be. Right. And I may never get there. Who knows? But, you know, we'll see. All right. Well, this takes a good first to go to place. So let's do that.
What did you just say?
I think I said this takes a good first to go to place.
Okay. That's what I heard, but I was like, did I miss a word?
Yeah. So let's go to place first to take, and then we'll back and then come and over and
are you in reverse or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do parting shots.
Okay.
In a second.
Right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're back.
So we always finish the show out by going slowly out the door with a not a big finish, a small finish. No, we like to finish with parting shots. So let's do that. Here's my parting shot. And I said I would go first, but mine is so picayune, like it's so boring, but I have a thing. I miss living in New York, obviously, and there's lots of things I miss about living in New York.
How long has it been?
It's been like 17 years or something.
Wow.
I don't miss it as much as I used to, but there's still things about it that I'm like, oh, I wish this, I wish that, I wish
the bagels,
this other
the
thing.
pizza.
That's exactly where I'm going. So one of the things that I always like to do when I go back to New York is to get Chinese food, because there's something very specific about New York Chinese food, the way it's made, the way it's, I don't know how to describe it. It's just something that I've never encountered out here in Los Angeles. And it's not just because some of the Chinese food I've encountered is, what's the name of that place? Panda Express, where it's just like garbage with sugar on it. Right. But I just haven't found like that specific taste,
like flavor. Yeah. And that's tough when you're craving a specific taste. Mm-hmm. If you eat something, even if it tastes good, if it isn't what you were going for, it's a disappointment.
It's not the same. Yeah. But just a couple of days ago, I went out to dinner with some friends over in, I guess it was in Eagle Rock. And we went to a Taiwanese restaurant. And it wasn't exactly the same as New York Chinese food, but it was very similar, and it was better. It was like a more elegant version.
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
Chinese food.
You gotta give me the name of the place.
I had hot and sour soup that was the best hot and sour soup I've ever had. And I had something else that I can't remember the name of it, but it was like noodles and chicken, and it was incredible. And it made me, I was like, oh, I got to try more places so I can find more things that I like, because we're all going to die. So I might as well eat good food along the way.
Yeah.
So might as well try to find some of those places. So anyway, I'm saying it's out there if you look for it. And that was, like I said, I know it sounds so mundane and boring, but
no, it doesn't.
When I was eating that hot and sour soup, I was so excited and happy and like kind of losing my mind a little bit. Like, this is so perfect.
Aw. Yeah, you got to give me the name of that place.
That's my parting shot. No, I won't.
Okay. My parting shot is,
don't say Chinese food, please.
It's not gonna be Chinese food. I think the pandemic has a lot of negative effects, but one of them is the fact
any pandemic is going to have a huge downside.
I'm against them. Mm-hmm. Call me crazy.
Right.
I'm not for them. One is Smudgy is just so spoiled at this point. Like, sometimes I like hold his face and I'm like, some dogs, like before this all happened, their owners left like all day long. Mm-hmm. And now he's at the point where if we both don't go on the walk, he doesn't want to go. He wants the whole family to go for the walk. And it's like, buddy,
this ain't how it works, pal.
Yeah. I do appreciate how he doesn't want to leave anyone behind, and he doesn't want,
some people even have to go to work all day, and they have dog walkers come by and walk their dogs.
Like, if a stranger came and walked him, he would be beside himself. He would be so upset. But yeah, he's a funny dude.
I've talked about this before, but when I was living in New York years ago, I went with a friend of mine to her boss's apartment. I don't remember why. I think she was like staying there or something.
Or like house sitting.
Yeah. And beautiful, like very high floor apartment on the Upper East Side of New York City. And this her boss had a dog. Her boss was like single, but had a dog. And she said her boss would call and leave messages on the answering machine during the day just so the dog would hear her voice.
Love it.
It was so insane. Dumb. So insane. So things could be worse, Smudgy.
Yeah, he's got it pretty good. My favorite too is sometimes he's in his crate because his crate is right next to my desk. So we spend a lot of the day together, and he's not in the crate constantly, but sometimes we need to be in the crate. And if there are dogs losing their shit outside that during this time, I get excited because I like want to go outside and be like, that's not my dog. For once, this isn't my dog. My dog is not doing that. I want to get credit for the fact that my dog isn't the one losing his shit right now. But two, Smudgy will just be like laying in his crate and he'll be like, woof. Like, do I need to get involved? And it's like, no, man, it's not your fight. It cracks me up.
Butt out, Smudgy.
Not your drama.
How are things going right now, Smudgy? Not great. Folks, this has been The Long Shot. It is a podcast. Please follow us on Twitter because we tweet once every 6 months.
If that.
And like or subscribe on YouTube. And send us emails, mailbag@longshotpodcast.com. Email us and tell us how you feel about existence and whether it is going to go on for a while or will end soon. And that's it. We will see you next time. That's been the show, and I hope things go well. Not great.
Bye.
Bye.
Let the time I watched slip by through the gate and back into your place, and under the stairs where I used to sleep. And why is it I only miss you when you're not around, and I'm never that hungry until you don't feed me. Now your thinking is deeper, I am on shallower ground. There's nothing to play with here, and they won't let me out. Time is a choose.